frontal lobe is present in flocculonodular lobe. Now there is physiological classification as well: vestibulocerebellum, spinocerebellum, and cerebrocerebellum. Coming to its internal circuits, so you have to know one thing: the layers of cerebellum. Cerebellum have first outer cortex, then inner white matter. Cortex has gray matter, then inner white matter, then we have deep cerebellar nuclei. Deep cerebellar nuclei has many nucleuses. Those are fastigial nucleus, dentate nucleus, emboliform nucleus, and globose nucleus. Globose nucleus and emboliform nucleus are also called together as nucleus interpositus. Then coming to internal circuit. So cortex has three layers: molecular layer, Purkinje layer, and granular layer. These have different types of cells. Molecular layer has basket cells and stellate cells. Purkinje layer has only large Purkinje cells. Then granular layer has granular cells and Golgi cells as well. Now these granular cells tracts ascend to the molecular layer and split. They form parallel fibers through which they make synapses with Purkinje cells, basket cells, stellate cells, and other cells. We get afferents from two types of fibers. One is mossy fibers and other is climbing fibers. Mossy fibers, they stimulate deep cerebellar nuclei, granular cells, and Golgi cells. But climbing fibers, they only stimulate Purkinje cells, and they also stimulate deep cerebellar nuclei. So mossy fibers, they stimulate granular cells. Granular cells stimulate Purkinje cells. Purkinje cells inhibit deep cerebellar nuclei, and output will be excited. Then climbing fibers, they only stimulate Purkinje cells and deep cerebellar nuclei. Now from output, from deep cerebellar nuclei, the output goes to spinal cord level. To the spinal cord level. Now coming to its output pathways. In output pathways, from vestibulocerebellum, the fibers extend directly to the vestibular nuclei without depending on deep cerebellar nuclei. It directly comes to vestibular nucleus, and through which it will control the activities of vestibulospinal tract. And from output from spinocerebellum. The spinocerebellum has two portions: vermal portion and paravermal portion. From vermal portion, the fibers extend to the deep cerebellar nuclei, and deep cerebellar nuclei to the fastigial nucleus. From fastigial nucleus, it goes to reticular montane formation and vestibular nuclei, through which it will control reticulospinal tracts and vestibulospinal tracts. Paravermal portion, from paravermal portion, the fibers extend to the nucleus interpositus. From there, it will extend to the red nucleus. From red nucleus, it will control the activities of rubrospinal tract. And coming to the output from cerebrocerebellum. From cerebrocerebellum, fibers go through cortex through via thalamus, and it will control corticospinal tract activities. So cerebellum controls all the activities of descending pathways. Hence, it helps in motor control, and its main function is motor control. Now, functions
part of the cerebellum is also is called as vestibulocerebellum because of its extensive connection with the vestibular nuclei. And this part of the cerebellum is very much concerned with balance and posture. And the second part is spinocerebellum. Spinocerebellum is also called as paliocerebellum. And mainly the spinocerebellum is divided into two main parts, that is vermis and paravermis. Vermin region is responsible and controls the proximal and axial muscles, which is mainly which controls posture, and whereas the paravertebral region is responsible and controls the distal muscles, which helps and controls the skill voluntary movements, whereas the third part, that is cerebrocerebellum, is also called as neocerebellum, as it is phylogenetically the newest part. And the cerebrocerebellum is divided into two main regions, that is two main cerebral hemispheres. And this part of the cerebellum is called cerebrocerebellum due to its extensive connection with cortex. As it is very much connected with cortex, it helps in planning and coordinating movements and motor learning. And now let's see the cerebellar diseases. In cerebellar diseases, there is no paralysis. The cerebellum is intact, but the movements are affected. The reflexes are normal, like the superficial and deep reflexes are normal. No sensory deficit, like the person with cerebral lesions can feel the pain, temperature, and touch. And the hypotonia is also seen on the same side of the body because cerebellum has very much control of the tonicity of the muscles. And then nystagmus. Nystagmus is a condition, like for example, if I place, for example, this is a mic, and if I move this mic, accordingly my eyeball movement is also seen. Whereas the person with cerebral lesions, eyeball movement will be jerky. So that is this nystagmus. Ataxia. Ataxia is a lack of uncontrolled movements. If ataxia affects the lower muscles, then we can see the truncated, and if it affects the lower muscles and the truncated also. And then dyspepsia. Dyspepsia is of two types: hypometria and hypometria. Hypometria, if I ask a person with cerebral lesions to hold this mic, he'll be going ahead of this mic. That is hypometria. That is also called as overshooting. Whereas if a person just stops before the mic, it is hypometria. This is also called undershooting. And then intention tremor, as the name suggests, while if a person with cerebral lesions want to hold a pin, just before going in front of the thing, just before holding the thing, the tremors are seen. And then adiadochokinesia is a condition like involuntary, he is unable to perform the involuntary rapid movements. For example, like a normal person can pronate and spinate, whereas the person who is having cerebellar lesions cannot be able to